What's up, NBA 2K League fans? Josiah Cohen here, bringing you the first episode, the inaugural episode of Pure Playmaker on prediction. We got a great show, and of course, I'm here with Will Beverino. Will, how you doing?
Doing good, Josiah. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well myself. I promise you, we did not coordinate on these polos or these HyperX headsets, but great minds think alike, and we're going to be thinking a lot about the NBA 2K League this week. So, Will, we know there's a ton of playoff action coming up. We've railed about it to no end. It's so exciting. Are you not excited?
I think everyone's excited. I mean, how can you not be? This is 2 straight seasons now where the playoff race has come so down to the wire in the last few weeks. Like, this should just be expected now, which is great because we have so many teams that you honestly have no idea who's actually going to get in. So that's what makes it so good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I felt like this bye week took forever. We've got 2 more weeks of regular season action to go before the end of the season. It's going to be phenomenal. There's so many teams in that 8-5 spot, sort of in the playoff picture right now. You've got the Nets at 7-5 on the bubble. You've got a couple 7-6 teams trying to climb back in there. The T-Wolves, for example. There's a lot to look out for. There's so many important games this week and next week that are really going to shape the playoff picture. I think, you look at even the teams like the Pacers and the 76ers, who you might say at the beginning of the season, oh, these guys are making the playoffs, no doubt about it. They haven't had the easiest of roads. Who do you think, between the 76ers, who are 8-5, and the Pacers, who are 8-4, with a very tough schedule remaining, who's making it in between those 2 teams?
If I had to choose between those 2, even though the Pacers, technically they have a better record right now. They're 8-4. The 76ers are 8-5. I trust the 76ers more. They've been here. Right, they have a couple of tournament wins under their belt. They've been to the playoffs before. They know how to handle these high-pressure situations. They've also have long figured out the kind of team they want to be. Josiah, they know what their identity is. And so the Pacers are still trying to figure that out a bit, moving Ramo to the post scorer and Swizzerk to point guard being the 2 biggest changes. And putting the ball more in Ramo's hands, just because Matty wasn't quite working out at point guard, I guess, the way they wanted everything to work out. So, they got to the finals of the ticket with it, and I think we still need to see how this is going to do over a larger sample. How this lineup is going to work against the truly contending teams, the best teams in the league, and pretty good test right here against the 76ers.
Yeah, I think the 76ers, a high-integrity team. They've got, pretty much the same lineup throughout the entire season. They're a team, as you said, that's been there before. They know how to win. Radiant knows how to win. Steve is one of the savviest players in the entire league. You have to be confident in them. For the Pacers, on the other hand, a strong run in the ticket. They've been good since they've moved Ramo to the post scorer now at power forward. He put up monster numbers, 43 points against the 76ers in their matchup in the ticket. But I just think that, the 76ers, slightly easier schedule remaining. They know what they're doing. They're the team I trust to go out there, get a win when it counts. And the Pacers, yeah, they're a good team. I think both of these teams have, an inside track to make the playoffs. But the Pacers still have a little bit more to prove. In the entire picture, it's all about proving yourselves. The Magic 8-5, the Celtics 8-5. The Nets 7-5. The Nets has so much power in what they can do. If they win a game here, they're up to 8-5. They're putting some teams, futures on the line for this year. You've got the Warriors, who are down there at 7-8, who are still a really good team. They're knocking someone out of the playoff spot by winning that ticket tournament. So many good things going on in this playoff race. You got to tune into every game at this point. You got to watch every game. You got to know who's doing well, who's hot, who's not, who's looking at the playoffs. Now, we've got the Celtics, we've got the Magic. These teams have a bit of a history, right? Last year, Celtics finished 7-7. They could have made the playoffs, but a certain team from Orlando knocked them out right after their own season was just eliminated. This is the biggest game of the year. This Celtics-Magic game is the absolute biggest game of the year. I don't think there's any doubt about it in my mind. Let's make the call. Who do you have winning? and pretty much qualifying for the playoffs based on the strength of that win.
I had the Celtics winning this one. They're really hot right now. They started the season 1-4, 1-5, and they're now 8-5, which is a tremendous turnaround. Any winning streak of that magnitude is impressive in this league. So their lineup switch has paid absolute dividends, moving Mel East to the lock and moving Boley to the power forward, because Boley just I don't think he wasn't working out at lock. And so they made the move they had to make. And some of their earlier experiments in the season, like moving Profusion to center, were a little more iffy, to put it nicely. But I think that they've figured out what their lineup is going to be. Fab is playing at an almost MVP level. He would be the MVP if Mama didn't exist. But this is a team that suddenly found its confidence. It hasn't had, we expect certain tournament success, and since their finals appearance in the ticket earlier this season, that hasn't come to fruition. But they flip-flop that around now with regular season success, which I think is much more important.
Absolutely.
In the NBA 2K League.
Absolutely. It's sort of a wheel. When their tournament success is going well, when they're the tournament Celtics, their regular season performance is not so good. But now, as you say, when their regular season performance is really on the upswing, their tournament performance, but they're getting wins when it counts. They're on a massive winning streak. I think the Magic are pretty hot too, though. Ever since acquiring Toxic from Grizz Gaming, they're looking good. He's looking really good. Reed's looking phenomenal. It's coming on very late in the year. I think the Magic might have a good shot at this game.
You think they're going to win?
I'm going to give it to the Magic based on this one.
Okay.
Listen to this. It's no shock that Fab is an MVP candidate, right? We both have Mama ahead, I think, in terms of MVP candidacy, but Fab is making a really impressive late push. Fab is averaging 22.7 points per game, 12.8 assists per game. Guess how many points per game Reed is averaging since moving to his new archetype, the more conventional sharpshooting playmaker? How many points?
It's got to be around like 25, I would imagine.
22.7 points per game.
Okay.
Fewer assists per game, better shooting percentage from the field and from three. Those are some pretty good numbers, right? And we're touting Fab as this MVP candidate, and Reed's been really, really good, though, since he switched archetypes. I think, Bully's been great at power forward since they moved him there, after they had the early season issues. I just think the Magic can really, really do a lot. You got Toxic defending Fab, and, obviously you're never going to stop Fab, but, you try and contain him a little bit. But then I really like that you've got Manny on Profusion. Manny was their lock the first half of the season, and now he's going up against one of the best sharpshooters in the league, and I think that's a good matchup for the Magic.
Yeah, you're talking about that Magic defense. The league actually showed some team stats today, and the Magic are first in defensive points per game. Somewhere is like 55.3 points they're letting up, which is first in the league. On the flip side, Josiah, Celtics Crossover Gaming has the number one offensive points per game total in the league. They're at like 67 or 68 points per game, which surprised me, to be quite honest, that the Celtics were tops in the league, which just shows how good they've been. Now, let's not overlook the Celtics defense, though, Josiah, because I'm going to hit you with something here. Since the ticket, Josiah, Mel East at lockdown defender has been outscoring opposing point guards at 16.25 points per game compared to 10 points per game on the dot. Tell me what you think about that.
That's an interesting stat there, Will. I'm glad you brought it to the table. Mel East, who everyone knows is the best shooter in the entire NBA 2K League, you got to tip your cap. I've always said that, his energy is perfect for lock. I've always said that ever since really at the beginning of the season. But he's really been great, and they don't have so many, vocal leaders. And, when he gets going early in the game, when he gets a steal, when he hits a three from the corner, he's up out of his seat. He's talking, he's yelling, and the Celtics are a better team for it. Now, they've had some blowout wins, They beat the Raptors by 41 points last week. So, that plays into it a little bit. But that's an interesting stat that you bring up there. I think Toxic, though, he's got the offensive firepower too. He's not going to score 16 points a game. I'll give you that. But I don't think Mel is going to score 16 points a game either, especially against that top-ranked defense in the league.
I mean, you say that. Mel has scored 17 points in his last 3 games each. So he's on fire offensively, which is probably contributing to why the Celtics are such a great team offensively as a whole. Throw in Fab in there, a guy, he's top in the league in assists.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure. He had 17 assists per game last season, Josiah. Yeah. He's at 13 or 14 assists per game this year. Yeah, he's really good. He's second in the league in points. What is the better, what's the better matchup then? Toxic against Fab or Mel East against Reezy?
I'm interested in Mel East against Reezy. I think people are sleeping on Reed a little bit still. He was good early on. There are some clamors now for him to be Rookie of the Year, which I think he's sort of in the driver's seat, especially if they load PP's done a great job on the Kings, of course. But I think that's what matters. The Magic, we always like to use the cliche defense wins championships. This is the type of game that, you win this game, you might get a shot at the title. If the Magic win this game, they're probably making the playoffs. Probably got about a 90% chance to make the playoffs if they win this game. The Celtics, this is a tough game for them. They've also got the Lakers, a 2-11 team. It's a pretty easy matchup for them. But, give me Reed. Give me Reed against Mel. I'm counting on that. I'm saying Reed, 25 points at least, 8 assists, and I think they take the win.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Josiah, you are more confident that Reed will score more points against Toxic than you are that Fab will score more points. Reed will score more against Elise than you are that Fab will score more against Toxic.
I'm interested in Fab's assists this game. I know Fab's going to put up 20 or whatnot, 25. I'm going to give him that. I'm interested to see what his assists are going to be, though, because I think if the Magic can hold him to something like 6 or 7 assists, right, as opposed to his usual 12.8, right, then I think then they're really in the driver's seat. If you limit Profusion scoring, if you limit no autograph scoring, if you finally clamp down on the best shooter in the league in the corner, then you really put yourself in position to win. And I think they're a good team at doing that. I think they're a really good team on defense. And so, you clamp down on those other scores, you turn the offense over to Fab, you make Fab alone beat you, right? If you've got a team effort against Fab, then I think you got a real shot.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the game plan most teams took against the Celtics early on, was that you shut down Profusion, then you shut down the entire team. But can you do that now? It's not as easy because the Celtics know what people are going to throw at them. I don't think you can stop Fab. Fab's going to get his every single game. He's one of the best players in the world. So the game plan is always, can you stop Profusion? What can the Magic do to stop Profusion?
Yeah, hey, I think they showed some of it in their win over the Mavs, right? The Mavs have a great off-ball player in Mo. Guy moves all over the place, gets open for shots. They got Pete setting a lot of screens for him high, and they held him. They held him in check, right? And Fab, Fab gets you points in a way I think that Dimes hasn't necessarily this year. And yeah, it's tough to reckon with Fab, even if he's the guy alone carrying things. But I think, you look at how they shut down Mo. You look at what they do in terms of rotations, in terms of stepping up, running players off the 3-point line. I think, you watch out for Profusion dexing up, heading up court, pretending to cut toward the basket before getting back out to the 3-point line. You watch out for those, you win the game.
Okay. Another matchup I think is being overlooked is that center matchup between no autographs and what I assume is going to be King Cam royalty.
Yeah.
That might be kind of the underlying matchup that could determine this game, I think.
Yeah, I like to see Kim Cam out there on the pure glass. He really showed up way back when at the beginning of the season, consecutive 19 rebound games. They like his shooting ability as well on the pure glass, which is something not so many pure glass cleaners bring to the table. So I think, if he gets a couple open threes, if no autographs helps on to Reed a bit more and Reed finds him and King Cam converts the shots, I think that's what the Magic really want. If they get that spacing open up for Reezy by having the threes from King Cam reliably, then, give me Reezy driving a hoop there.
Okay. So you say Magic. How much do you think Magic are going to win by?
Well, with me picking the Magic, they're probably going to go out there and lose. But I'm gonna say the Magic. I'm gonna say the Magic by 6.
By 6, so it's going to be a close game.
I'm thinking we're looking at like a 66-60 game. Yeah. That's just the way I'm feeling.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Now watch it go out there, be an 81-42 game, and we'll come back. But
the problem with the Celtics is they're so up and down. Remember, they let the Pacers score 100 on them last season
in regulation. Pacers,
which is absolutely insane. And then they go out and recently they've just been stomping all over everyone. Beat the Cavs, another playoff team. We took them out of the playoff race, and then just stomped the Raptors, took them out of the playoff race, and then beat the Mavs and the Warriors handily. That's not an easy schedule to navigate, and they've navigated it literally perfectly so far. And it's but like I just said, you never know with the Celtics. This is the most unpredictable team in the league by far.
Wow,
I think
that's a take. Yeah, they had the most games remaining on their schedule after the ticket tournament, 7. We didn't know who they'd be. We really didn't know who they'd be. But importantly, they figured out who they were, and they figured out who they are, and that's really what's helping them to these really impressive blowout wins over good teams, and then getting the win when it counts, as we saw against the Cavs last week. And that's really what matters. And now these teams both are in that 8-5 grouping with the 76ers, maybe with the Pacers. Pacers drop a game, although they should beat the Hawks in their first game. They've got 4 remaining. That 8-5 group of teams, which if all, and we can throw the Nets in there as well at 7-5. If they win their next game, they're 8-5. They're right in the conversation. Which of those teams is the odd team out for you? Who's not making the playoffs, since the Warriors are going to finish most likely as the number 8 seed at 8-8 or 7-9? Who's the odd team out?
Well, if I'm picking the Celtics over the Magic, then the Magic are a pretty good candidate. I think that would put the Magic at 8-6, and now you're kind of on a knife's edge, where even if you lose to the Celtics, even if you split your next 2 games, you're at 9-7. And that is by no means a guarantee that you'll get in the playoffs. Especially, we don't know if a 9-7 team is going to get in at all. And then you have to consider there are going to be tiebreakers. There may be multiple 9-7 teams, and who knows how that is going to break down. So if I'm picking the Celtics, I think I gotta take the Magic out, which is really a shame, because the Magic are a great team. The way that Reed has been playing recently has been phenomenal. Definitely one of the front runners for Rookie of the Year right now. And he's been the reason that the Magic have resurged and are on, trying to get their first playoff berth in franchise history. But I really like the Nets. I like the way they've been playing lately, especially Wavy at point guard. And they've had a little lineup change of their own since the ticket. So we'll see how that works out. But they did, they've been fine, I think. And I still think those Week 12 games they have fall favorably for them, because if you're going to play really good teams, you want to play them at the end. So
Right. And we don't know what the Pacers' record is going to be for that last game of the season. The Pacers, at that point could be something like 10-4, and they're pretty much in the playoffs at that point. So, they might take their foot off the gas a little bit in that sort of scenario. In which case, as you say, the Nets could be in prime position to get the win against a higher ranked team as it is. But you brought up Rookie of the Year, and that's something we should talk about. But one thing that I think is sort of hovering over the awards, which the league recently announced, is that MVP race. And throughout the season, we've been saying "Mama, Mama, Mama, Mama Mia," and because it's been Mama, right? I can't say it enough. It's been Mama. Yeah. Is there any way in your mind that Fab leads the Celtics to an 11-5 finish? Finishes with his current stat line about 23 points, 13 assists. Does he have a real MVP case?
So Fab actually talked about this on Twitter recently, and I agree with what Fab said about Fab's chances at an MVP. Mama is going to win it, I think, without a doubt. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. We've always talked about NBA 2K19 being, and especially the league build this season. It's a guards game. And so when you go into it with that mindset, which everyone goes into it with that mindset, you probably have to give the MVP to the best guard. And Mama is the best guard right now. Mm. However, it's actually a little bit closer than people are giving it credit for, I think. Like I said before, Fab leads the league in assists. He's second in points, only to Mama. The early start of Celtics gaming is what did him in. Especially, he also got suspended for one game because of that altercation with Rando in the first week. So I think those things really hurt him a lot. If they make the playoffs, maybe they voting ends before the playoffs, I would assume, right?
It ends that last Friday night of the season. It's all but a guarantee at this point that he'll be one of the 5 finalists for MVP, but it ends really that last Friday night of the season.
If the MVP was voted on after the playoffs, then maybe if Fab takes his team on a deep run or even won the entire thing, you could definitely give Fab much more of a case against Mama. But considering that Blazer 5 has only lost one game this season and Mama leads the league in points, Mama is second in assists.
He's up there. He's in the top 3. I think he might be third. I think.
Okay, yeah, he up there. Second, and he's been, that Blazer 5 team is really good, and that's another point for Fab is that his supporting cast isn't as good as Mama's on Blazer 5, but Mama contributes so much and does so much for that team that I don't think you can give it to anyone else. Yeah, but it is a closer discussion.
Team captain, coach, pretty much in all but title. I think that all plays into it. The Celtics got hammered in that game that for which Fab was suspended. That has to be a factor. And Fab's been phenomenal. Fab, is probably the second best player in the league right about now. But Mama's 14-1. Mama has a 26-3 record as a point guard, as a starting point guard in the NBA 2K League regular season in history. He's 14-1 this year, better than they were last year when they were the best regular season team in the league. Fab has a strong case, but the case may have been closed a little bit sooner.
Yeah, and even talking about that last season's record when they went 12-2, they lost shots in the offseason.
Yeah,
which I think bolsters Mama's case a lot in that he adjusted to not having that real consistent third option. Shots was by far the best third option in the league last season. So adjusting and knowing that because of the way that 2K19 is, Walnut wasn't going, to average 25 points and 15 rebounds throughout the season. Knowing he had to take it into his hands, I think that definitely bolsters his case a lot.
Yeah, Walnut, 2018 Walnut is not the Walnut the Blazers are getting every game here. just because Walnut won MVP last season should not knock the fact that Mama is still the most valuable player for his team this year. So yeah, I think that's one of the award races that sort of got the most coverage, and the fans are going to get to have their say on that. They get some voting on that, but it's exciting. It's really exciting. Reed BP for Rookie of the Year. Coach of the Year is a little bit up in the air now. The Warriors have slumped a little bit late in the season, dropping to 7-8. You look at guys like LT from the Mavs, taking them to 11-4 this year after a tough season last time around. DJ Layton with the Kings, they're 10-5 after an even tougher season last year. A lot of good candidates. A lot of good candidates for all these awards. Fans can vote for some of them. But I'm not even thinking about the awards now. I'm talking about the awards, but I'm not thinking about the awards because we still got Magic Celtics to go. We got Magic Celtics. We got 76ers Pacers. We got the best darn NBA 2K League action you're going to get in the regular season coming up this week and next week. I think we covered it pretty in depth here. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that Magic Celtics game. That's what
game.
It's all about.
That's the game. We broke it down. Pretty much every position. You can watch the breakdown as well on the Prediction YouTube channel. The link's going to be on the Twitch page. I think it's exciting. I think if you're not there watching that game, what are you even doing? What are you even doing? Because that game is deciding a lot about this season and a lot about who's the hottest point guard right now, who might be the best team left. It's funny to me because Radiant right at the beginning of the season, when they won that tip-off tournament for the second consecutive year, everyone was thinking, oh, we got our MVP. I think I had him as my MVP favorite coming into the season. What does it take, Will, to go from tip-off champions to a team that's 4-3, a last-second basket away from their first sub-500 record ever, to a team now really clawing back into the playoff race with important games still to go? What goes into that?
Well, I think first off, maybe some complacency. When they made the semifinals of the playoffs last year, they go on to win the tip-off, and then they didn't have a great start to the season. Definitely not the start that I think a lot of people were expecting. Granted, they lost to some good teams. At the same time, they're the 76ers, so you'd expect them to win some of those games against the best teams. So maybe there was some complacency there, and maybe they may have just needed a slap in the face. Be like, okay, we can't cruise through this, right?
Right.
We can't cruise through this regular season. So they've seemed to have woken up. They've been playing really well lately, much better than they were in the beginning of the season, I think.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of complacency there. They just had so much holdover from 2018 when they were really good. They kept Steez, their center, defending the pick and roll a little longer than most teams did. Most teams moved over to the power forward guarding the pick and roll. I think they still got it together though. But it's just funny to me that there's this super hyped up matchup between the 76ers and the Blazers, earlier on in the season, and more recently the hyped up matchup was Blazer 5 Mavs, and that's in part a reflection of how the season has gone. But part of how the season has gone is that the 76ers have not been as dominant in the regular season or in tournaments as they were last year. So that's something that's really interesting to me. And by the way, the fact that the Blazers were the hyped up team in both of those matchups, spread throughout the season, that bolsters Mama's MVP case a little bit too. I think it's just exciting. When can the league get Mama in that MVP commercial? And the one I'm talking about, the Alienware one, the really good one where they have Walnut closing it off. It's I'm gonna be player of the week, player of the month, I'm gonna be MVP, and then Walnut goes in there with I'm gonna be MVP again, which is great. I love it every time. But when are they gonna get Mama in there, a little teammate rivalry? I think he might be in there, but when are they getting him closing it off, saying I'm gonna be MVP instead of Walnut? Something like that.
I think they need to shoot that like ASAP.
ASAP.
and get it in before the awards close.
Get it before the awards.
The most awkward thing about that commercial, by the way, is they have Jacko saying, "I'm going to be player of the month," and the Pistons won't play him for some reason.
I hope Jacko's getting a start this week.
Not because Jacko is bad, but they just
Jacko has mysteriously been on the bench. Can you believe the Pistons got one win this year? They're 1-12. They got one win. Jacko put up 21 points at the 3. Like 4 weeks later, just on the bench. And they beat the Bucks too. The Bucks turned out to be a good team, right? And the Bucks were a good team then. They come off a 2-0 week. They beat the Blazers in one of the best games of the season. And Jacko's on the bench. So
no justice in this world.
No justice. No justice. Hopefully there'll be justice in the MVP race. In terms of Rookie of the Year, we touched on it a little bit earlier between Reed and BP. Who you're liking in that one? Early thoughts.
Oh, that's such a hard one. The numbers right now go in favor of Reed, probably. But what I think can't be overlooked is that if you replaced BP and Reed with, like, say, an average point guard, I think the Kings would be much, much worse than the Magic would be. The BP is what makes the Kings run. And they have good players on that team. Ball like Seam has been playing well. Yusuf Scarps has been playing well. They've been playing well as a team. I think the Magic overall are a more cohesive unit, and Reed's scoring recently has been what has propelled them. But BP has been doing this all season long, right?
Yeah. He's had some quiet games. Who hasn't? But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he's been a little bit more valuable to the Kings overall, who really had an impressive season, going to 10-5 with a very new roster. But we're going to see though. I think I'm going to defer judgment until the next 2 weeks have passed. By that time, frankly, the Magic could be 10-6, right on par with the Kings. And I think that would lend some more credence to Reed's Rookie of the Year candidacy. But two star point guards, and there's so many good rookies. You look at the Mavs trifecta: Pete Ballin, Sherm, Mo, all guys who have done a very impressive job this year. I think for me, they're kind of taking votes away from each other just by virtue of being on the same team and being all important parts of LT's system there and what the Mavs do offensively and defensively. So I think the 2 point guards have emerged. You have a guy like Plondo as well on the Bucks who's been very, very good. A hugely important part of what they do, either at center or now more recently as they sort of slumped, despite him putting up some good numbers on the post score. But for me, it's the 2 point guards who are really ahead in that race. As you said earlier, guard-driven league.
Yeah, and this is an award, I think, unlike MVP, where we really have to wait out these last 2 weeks before we decide. I don't think you can vote on it right now.
Yeah.
Just because we really got to see the entire body of work of both of these guys. Who I would give it to right now, I'm not even sure, to be quite honest, just because of the cases I presented for both. I think BP overall is just more important for his team. And Reed, like I said, he has the numbers on his side. So that one's going to go down to the wire. Yeah.
Reed, show up in that Celtics game, and I'll start writing in the ballot right then and there. But I mean, what's a pity is, for me, like, there's a bigger gap between DJ Layton and Jonah in terms of Coach of the Year, and I don't think DJ is necessarily a better coach. Jonah's a phenomenal coach, and the Magic did very, very well to get him over the offseason after he left the Mavs. In terms of their coaching ability, it's not that one is so far ahead of the other. But just in terms of what the Kings did this year, going 10-5, keeping everything together, getting some really big wins after they went 4-10 last season.
They were bad last season.
They were bad last season.
And then they lost.
They were so bad. They lost Timely Cook the day of the draft. That's a crazy story, which we might have to tell next time around. Wow, I'm just thinking back to that. But not to get sidetracked, come and hear that crazy story. me sprinting out of my room. We'll get to that. But, Jonah's done a great job, right? But the Magic went 8-6 last year, right? They're going to do well again. The Kings went 4-10. They've totally changed things around. And, awards are political. It's a what have you done for me lately sort of thing. And, what if the Magic finish 11-5? Then we have a different conversation. But as it stands right now, I think DJ's just ahead of Jonah in terms of the Coach of the Year award.
You also have to think when you lose Timely Cook, they got a bottom of the third round pick in compensation, which that's a very I don't want to say unfair trade-off. It doesn't work in the Kings' favor, just to put it lightly.
No.
And so taking, I think DJ, he had to have had a really big hand in how the Kings drafted. And so I think he did a little bit more with less in regards to roster building. He made some really good picks that didn't quite stand out at the time, but turned out, as we've seen them throughout the regular season, to be really, really good picks. On top of having to adjust the day of the draft to construct that roster.
Yeah.
So as far as Coach of the Year, I do think DJ is my guy for that, just because of the preseason expectations compared to the reality now that we're closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, he did a great. Those two compensation picks that the Kings had for losing Timely. Timely, by the way, would have been phenomenal in this year's league. This is the league built
for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the best defenders in the world. I'm just going to say it. Zacky's done a terrific job, by all accounts at shooting guard, at lock. Had a big game winner over the Warriors recently. But you just got to think, man, Timely would have, been racking up 4 steals a game, opposing point guards 10 points a game maybe, right? They readjusted really well, and it's interesting. They got a really good defender, as it turns out, with that compensation pick, Yusuf, who's made some noise this year in his second season in the league. And the other compensatory pick was, I believe, the Wizards, bringing back Reese the God, who's had some star moments this year as they've sort of had an up and down season. Or down and up season is really the proper sort of waveform for them. But there's a lot to think about in terms of all the awards. 10 awards this year. Fan voting for some of them. You can check them all out on the league website, and just to clarify things from the league website, which may not be so clear on there. On the awards page, if an award does not have voting procedure listed under it, which is the case, the award procedure is the one listed, further down. Think of it as a stack of awards. So Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, those have the same voting procedures. But you're welcome. There's your information on that. Are
you telling me the league website isn't completely clean and
complain about the league website?
Up to date, has no issues. Is that what you're telling me, Josiah?
Bring back 2K Analytics.
They definitely
bring back
don't.
2K Analytics.
They definitely don't bring you to week 12 when you click on the schedule page. That's for sure. Surely they wouldn't do that.
No, never. Wouldn't never do that.
It caused a lot of confusion. Editorial staffs such as ourselves.
Much confusion there. The league website has substantially improved since last year. It's got a lot of room for growth still.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. Think of the league website as sort of competing for most improved player. Think of it that way.
There is no most improved
player. There is no most improved player. Would I vote for the league website as most improved player? No. But I'd vote for the tournaments as most improved player. The league's had 2 tournaments this year outside of the regular NBA 2K League studios, which are in New York. They had the Turn in Las Vegas, and they had the Ticket in Orlando, all of which by all accounts were amazing. The only thing not good about the Ticket in Orlando is that they didn't have the cake. They didn't have it at the Turn either, but I love the
which I've
cake.
stood on.
I have also stood. I have
Oh,
also
have you?
stood on the cake. I set you up there. I have stood on the cake recently. There we go. That was one of my lifetime goals. Standing on the cake there, right in the center of the NBA 2K League studios, and I have now done it. But yeah, Will was first. Annoyingly so. Will was first. But the cake has. Will was first.
It was at the finals too, which Josiah.
All right. So, anyways, I think we're gonna wrap things up here. You can find our entire breakdown of that pivotal Celtics-Magic game on the YouTube channel, the Prediction YouTube channel. Link again on the Twitch page. Be sure to stay around as well. Predictions Call of Duty show, The Reload with Landon Sanders coming out. That's really exciting. I think we had a little bit of excitement here too. Always great to have Will Beverina alongside me, on screen with me for the first time in a long time. First time ever.
Yeah.
First time ever. Yeah. First time ever with Will Beverina, and I think we were all right there. Will and I go back a little bit, so I know when he's being foolish, and he's never reticent to point out when I'm being foolish. So it's a good time. Thanks you guys all for coming out, watching the show, checking this out on YouTube. Predictions. Link below. The YouTube link. Thank you, Will, for calling me out when I'm being foolish as usual. Link is below. Prediction. Up and out.